All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's weekly webinar for lead agencies. We will have a lot of great information for the upcoming data certification, and Sydney Anderson will be presenting that information. So a big focus of today will be on the data certification process. So she will talk us through that. Then we'll briefly go over any upcoming events like our Ages and Stages training. We'll also go over the date for our second session for the onboarding webinar. And then just a reminder, today we will have the last 30 minutes. Today's weekly webinar is going to be from 3 to 4 p.m. And the last 30 minutes will be an optional breakout session for you guys to be able to have the opportunity to collaborate. And you'll be grouped with other lead agencies across the state to just brainstorm and share ideas about the reopening process. So just a reminder, today's agenda is the first half going to focus on data certification. And then the second half will be an opportunity for you guys to break into groups and brainstorm and share reopening plans and ideas with your lead agency peers. All right, so we'll get started, and Sydney Anderson is going to get us started with data certification.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. So I think I wasn't on the webinar last week, but they mentioned that there was going to be a kind of modified data certification process for this summer. So I'm going to, you can go to the next slide, Amanda. So I'll and the next, please. So I'll take you through just how we generally do performance profiles and then how we're going to do data certification this year. And then we'll go through the process of actually doing the certification. And so the process is going to take place from July 15th to August 30th. And so this is all part of the Act 3 accountability system that we have. And so this is the process that we use, or we use performance profiles to build a unified rating system and coordination of services across birth to 5 programs. And so these are kind of like the 4 things we look at. And so you can go to the next. And so this all comes out of the 2015 Unified Rating System for publicly funded sites that we use to measure core outcomes and positive child outcomes, and also that we use to kind of monitor minimum standards and also provide tax credits and bonuses to programs to reward their performance. And so the performance profiles that we produce for the this process have 2 components. So there's one that is basically made up of the class rating system. So these are the ratings that relate to positive child outcomes. And then the second one is information on classroom best practices. So those are the curriculum used, the ratio, and the teacher to child ratio in the classroom, the curriculum used, teacher credentials, and those all make up ratings that we use to come up with SRT, the tax credit and the CCAP bonus payment. So we can go to the next. So the performance profiles can be found on the Louisiana School and Center Finder, and you can go to the next one. And each site has a performance rating based on class, which is this, like the number measurement that you see there and the high proficient classroom quality ranking that you see. And then the second part of that is going to be, or the second part of our accountability, or of our rating, performance profile rating system, is this informational metric. So assessment, children per teacher, curriculum quality. And the maximum you can receive on those is 3 stars. And these also appear on the performance profile that you find on the school Finder website. for a center. So this year, obviously, it's a bit different. So we have some updates to how we're doing things this year, and you can go to the next slide. And so the Bulletin 140, which created the accountability system and we talked about earlier, allows flexibility for severe impact sites. And so I believe we had several sites that qualified as severe impact sites during the floods. This is similar, but it affects every single site in this, or every publicly funded site in the state that is part of our system. And so based on that policy, all sites can opt, we're doing like a hold harmless kind of route this year strategy. So all sites can opt into receiving a performance rating for this year, and then that would make them eligible for the CCAP bonus payments and school readiness tax credits for in next year, 2021. And so we are going to compare every single site's performance score based on this year's observations with the prior year performance score, and we're going to take the higher of the two. So if you do decide to opt in to receiving a performance rating this year, in order to be eligible for these bonus payments and tax credits, you will receive the highest score possible. And you will not see a decrease in your score from last year to this year. And so we're going to be reaching out with more information for lead agencies and sites in the coming weeks, and nobody needs to take any action at this time. This is just to make you aware of our plan. Next. And so that's the process for the class, the scores that are generated using the class observations. And then for the infometrics, which are those 3-star ratings on the different like teacher ratio and stuff, that is also going to be opt-in, and any sites that received 3 stars on every single metric will have all of their stars carry over. And then sites that want to have their information updated to reflect their efforts over this past school year will have the opportunity to do so, or we can keep the prior year star ratings on those informational metrics. So again, this is just the hold harmless approach. We'll take the best of whichever year.
Hey, Sydney, can I jump in really quickly? This is Taylor. I just want to name that, you know, when we were thinking about performance profiles this year and what makes the most sense, I think initially we were envisioning not doing data certification. But since then, several providers have reached out to us, and I'm sure you guys have received similar requests around what will happen to the informational metrics that have improved since last year. And we know that a lot of providers invest in these informational metrics. They invest in new curriculum. They support their teachers to earn their ancillary certificates. And they want to see those updates reflected on the performance profiles and on School Finder at a time when these providers are, you know, struggling in some cases to recruit families. And so really this is an attempt on our part to work with you all to get this information as up to date as possible so that we're reflecting the best possible informational metrics for centers at a time when we know they really, really need that information to accurately reflect all the hard work and investments they've made in their centers over the course of the last year. Just wanted to add that as sort of a frame and, you know, to keep that in mind as we go through this process.
Thanks, Taylor. All right, and then next slide, please. So now we're going to go through the process of how data certification works and the timeline that we're going to have this year. So as I said, it's going to go from July 15th and it's going to close on August 31st. And I know we usually, I think, do a month for this process. This year we're extending that to 6 weeks. So hopefully that will give you guys a little more flexibility. Oops. And so on July 15th, aka tomorrow, you're going to receive your site level data certification files in the FTP. And then for those 6 weeks, you're going to use those files to identify and collect any corrections. And so you'll continue to do that, and you'll submit those corrections in the Louisiana data review system, which we're going to go through in a few minutes. And all corrections will be submitted in that system by August 31st.
I also just want to make note too, if you're not familiar with your FTP, as if you're a new lead agency, uh, we can address that during the onboarding session that is this Friday. So we can talk about the FTP this Friday if you're a new lead agency or you're new to the role of lead agency.
Thank you, Amanda. And also, I'll be checking in with you all and just sending out reminders starting about 2 weeks in to make sure you're all don't need any support. And if you do need support, I'll be there to provide it as we move through this process. You can go to the next slide. Awesome. So this is just more in depth about what each person's role and responsibility is going to be. And so this fall and spring, data has been collected and entered into TS Gold. And I know you all in the lead agencies have been working to ensure that the data is accurate and complete. And so right before data certification, which is right now, the state will upload all of the data using the February checkpoint that we did. And then lead agencies are going to receive their final data in the FTP, which we just talked about, and begin correcting things. And sites will work with you all to confirm or revise the information. And you'll do that all in the data system. And we will provide you support as you do that. And then after data certification, we'll finalize all the records and you'll provide additional information as needed. We can go to the next slide. So the purpose of data certification is to make sure that all the information is as accurate as possible so that, like Taylor said, you can get all of those bonus payments and tax credits that are so necessary right now, or that sites can. And so we verify the following information. So we verify the age configuration at each site, and we look at the curriculum used, the degrees and certifications of the teachers. And generally, we use October 1st data, the counts. And so, yeah, you would reach out to Lindsay if you have any issues with or concerns about your October 1 counts, but we'll go through that in a minute as well. We can go to the next slide. So this is at the site level, possible corrections you might be making. And let's see. So, and so you'll see that things you might be changing are the name of the site, the site code for the site code at a site, the name of the community network, and then the age configurations. And the dates are all in here of when you would be pulling that information from. Corrections at the site level are pretty simple and mostly yes or no. And then if you go to the next slide, this is going to be the classroom level information that you might be correcting. And this is where you're going to be doing the heaviest lift probably. So this is where you verify the name of the classroom teacher, the number of children who were assessed with gold, ratios, curriculum, degree, and certification. And then again, we have dates there for everything that you would be needing to find. And then also for the, I can drop this in the chat in a minute. The 3, 2, or 1 star for the ratio entry, that you can find that on our performance profile guidance that we have. And I'll drop that into the chat in just a few minutes.
Sydney, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
The date that's right here, is this the date that has to be done by?
No, that's the date that this data needs to reflect. So
okay, just making sure.
This information may have evolved over the course of the 2019-2020 year. For example, the ratio may have changed periodically. You know, maybe the classroom configuration had to move around, or a teacher was moved or something like that. So for the sake of data certification, you should be looking at all of these metrics as of October 1st. With the exception of the number of children assessed, this year we're using the February 28th checkpoint to pull the number of children assessed. And then the name of the curriculum can be true as of May 31st. It's worth noting that many of these schools and centers were likely closed on May 31st. So whatever curriculum was being used during the spring semester, you can use that curriculum for the purpose of data certification.
Yep, thank you. All right, so next slide, please. So this is what the Excel file might look like, or this is like a line or two that you might see in your Excel file that you'll receive from us. And so as you can see, it would have all of these different variables that you may want to correct or verify. And so this is just an example of what it's going to look like. You can go to the next slide. All right, and then next. Okay, so the Louisiana Data Review System is the it's similar to the class portal in that it's also a portal that we use for this process. And so this is where you're going to be correcting and verifying all of the data. And so you'll receive an email giving you a login and password to the system. And if you already have an account, it will be the same as last year. And obviously we can provide you support if you're having any issues getting on. And so these are the things that you'll be able to do on the data review system, which is download and distribute the site rosters, make any changes, add documentation if necessary, and then submit the corrections, and then see our responses to the corrections. All right, and you can go next. So this is what the website will look like, and you'll log in there on the left side. And we can go to the next. And then this is a sample of what your dashboard will look like. And so you can see, like, you'll be able to see your total records in the roster. The site roster is what we'll be sharing with you with all of the data. And then it'll tell you kind of the status of everything. We can go to the next. And so before you can start doing your data certification, you'll have to sign an assurance, which just says that you understand your information may be audited, that you are doing correct work. And so you have to do that before you can start your data certification. All right. And so you can get your roster files by clicking, after you complete your assurance agreement, you'll click rosters and edit your site and classroom level information. Next. And then once you click that, you can click site level roster or classroom level roster, whichever one you're working on at the moment. Next. And then you can look at all of the information on the screen, or you can click export to Excel if you want to download the file as an Excel, if that's easier for doing your own work and for filtering and everything you might want to do. And then once all the sites have been reviewed, you'll submit all eligible records for review. And then as you are doing your work, when you, if you see something that's incorrect, you can manually enter a correction for a site code, and then you'll use drop-down menus for the other information about children served. We're no longer doing IEP, IFSP information. And then you have to be careful to make sure you click save at the bottom once all of the information has been reviewed. And then again, you will you will click submit all eligible records for review once you have completed reviewing every single one. And then this is how you would edit classroom level rosters. So again, you have to include the certification number, and the changes to number of children assessed requires documentation unless it's becoming 0. And that documentation would be from Gold. And then if the classroom should be deleted, you can just hit flag for removal and you won't be able to make any changes. And then again, click Save at the bottom.
Hey, Sydney, can I jump in and answer some questions in the chat box really quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a couple questions. One is around data certification login. We're including, for the most part, 2 or 3 contacts, whoever you have listed as the primary contacts for the lead agency to receive credentials for the system. So for example, Lee, you and Shanoa will likely receive an email tomorrow with information on how to log in and access the portal. If your network receives this login information for certain folks and you need other people to be given credentials, just reach out to Sydney and she can connect, she can ensure that you have login credentials for whoever you need it for. So in some cases, you might have a data person on your team who's going to be stepping in and doing this work, and we just don't have their contact information. So if that's the case, just reach out to Sydney and she can make sure they have access to the system. And then I see Dr. Rabiota's question, and I just want to clarify the informational metrics. I think Sydney just misspoke on that particular slide. The informational metrics are not used to determine bonus payments or tax credits. Those will be based on class observations as they've always been. And for the most part, for class observations, we are just looking across 2 years of data. So the complete data from 2019-2020, or the partial data for 2019, the complete data for 2018-2019, or the incomplete data for 2019-2020. And we're gonna give sites the higher of the 2 ratings. So that means if the incomplete data this year resulted in a decline from last year, we're just gonna carry forth their rating from last year. So their bonus payments and their tax credits will look the same. However, if sites were on track to make improvement on class this year, we want to give them credit for that improvement. So they'll see their 2019-2020 performance profile reflect data from this year. In terms of the informational metrics, those will not be used to determine bonus payments or tax credits, but they will be reported on School and Center Finder. So it's important that we give folks the opportunity to verify this data. We understand that it may be more complicated than in years past to get this data verified. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you're unable to work with a particular provider to get this data updated, we can carry forth their informational metrics from last year. We just want to give you all and centers the opportunity to show improvement in these informational metrics, since many of them would like that opportunity. So Dr. Rabiota, if you have particular questions or feel like you're going to encounter some particular challenges, we are happy to work with you, happy to think about what makes the most sense. But really, I think this is a good opportunity for your centers, for whom it will be important to have as accurate information as possible reflected on School and Center Finder.
Thank you for clarifying, Taylor. Yes, that was great. Thank you. All right, and we can continue on with LDR. And so, so these are some, okay.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I was just moving too fast.
It's okay. So these are some common mistakes. Some of which, so we have editing a classroom record for the incorrect site. And so if you need to move a classroom record from one site to another, you would delete the record from the original site and create a new record in the correct site. You cannot transfer the classroom. Another one is leaving informational metrics blank. And so that would be so all fields are required, and then if nothing is entered for curriculum, the system will default to no curriculum. So you just want to make sure that you're not accidentally leaving anything blank. So just double check and don't forget to hit save, which is the final mistake. So make sure that first you're saving changes, and then also that you're officially submitting all eligible records for review after saving your changes. We can go to the next. And so the additional documentation that we would need is for teacher certification. We'd need the certificate number. Any changes to the number of children assessed requires documentation from TS Gold. And then all informational metrics should reflect what was true on October 1st of 2019, as Taylor said, unless otherwise specified, like the May 31st for curriculum or the spring semester curriculum. And you can go to the next slide. And now we can do any questions and answers that you may have.
I think the biggest takeaway for those of you for whom this is not the first time doing data certification is that this process is going to look more or less identical to previous years. The biggest difference is that we're extending it so that it's open for 6 weeks instead of 4 to hopefully make this a little bit easier for you guys. I will be the first to admit that we know that you all are doing a million things right now, and this is one more. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us with questions. We're happy to help you. And then the other thing that I would add is, and Sydney said this earlier, but we will be pulling out sites from data certification for whom they already had 3-star ratings on all of the informational metrics, meaning that if last year they were already scoring as high as possible on these informational metrics, we're just going to carry forth those informational metrics, and we're not going to ask you to update those sites' informational metrics. Again, this is in line with the hold harmless approach because all of the sites are severe impact sites. But other than that, this will look and feel extremely similar to previous years. So we'll be dropping files into your FTP. We'll send out an email when that's complete and indicate where those are. And you will be able to download those files, print them out if that's helpful, send them to centers to ask for corrections in a similar way that you have always done. And then you'll be able to go into the LDR system and make those changes there. So do you all have any other questions? Casey, I'm seeing a question for you in the chat box regarding Webster Claiborne since they split. We'll talk to you individually about that because I think it warrants a conversation about what makes the most sense for y'all. Any other questions on data certification? Okay, great.
So Sydney Anderson's email has been dropped in the chat box. Please feel free to reach out to her so she can answer or assist in any way. She's so happy to do that. But again, if you have any other questions, you can reach out to anyone on the team, Taylor, us, anyone. We're happy to help. All right.
Absolutely. Thanks, Amanda.
Yes. I just stopped here on this real quick. Let me move forward. Sorry if that's making y'all dizzy. Okay, so we're just gonna breeze through some upcoming events. Taylor, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here. So the department is releasing what we are calling a Strong Start 2020 implementation survey. This went out to school systems, I believe, today. This was probably communicated to your school system leadership, superintendents and assistant superintendents. This is a survey that is designed to do a temperature check basically on your school system's plans for reopening and the extent to which the school system is implementing Strong Start and some of the challenges and approaches that the school system will take. There is a fillable PDF, so you can look at the fillable PDF and make notes and discuss it before you actually go to submit the survey, which needs to be submitted in JOT form by July 28th. The takeaway for you all and what we need you all to be aware of is that there are early childhood questions at the end of this survey. It's just a handful of questions at the very end of this survey, and you all should work with your school systems to ensure that the community network's perspective is represented in the responses to those early childhood questions. So there's a couple questions about pre-K, and then there is a whole section on early childhood that's more specific to birth to 3 and child care. And then for the lead agencies that are not school systems, so Children's Coalition, Agenda for Children, St. Mary, Madison, and other folks who lead the early childhood work but do not actually sit in a school system, you all will be given this survey separate from the school system, and you'll be asked just to complete the questions related directly to early childhood. So when you're given the information about this survey and you go to JotForm to complete it, when you select your network and your lead agency, you will only see the early childhood specific questions. If you have any questions about this survey, we've been asked to communicate that you should be working with your school system's network coach or emailing mcooper@la.gov if you have any specific questions. Of course, if you get to the survey and you have questions for the early childhood team, you can also always come to us and we can work with you to answer those questions as well.
Okay, thank you, Taylor. So we just want to remind everyone that the Ages and Stages training is coming up. It should be next week. So please register as soon as you can. Pick your day. Just a reminder, who should attend is a lead agency contact, our representative, and a CCR&R representative as well. This is a great opportunity. 2 people per network. Please find a date, pick a date between July 20th and July 24th. Seats are going fast. As of yet, as of today, Monday has been sold out. So you still have Tuesday through Friday. So we're really excited about this opportunity. Amy, do you want to take it from here and introduce our breakout session as well?
Sure, thanks, Amanda. So just a reminder, we do have an onboarding session 2 for new lead agencies, which will be this Friday from 1:30 to 2:30. This is the second of 2 sessions, and during this session, we'll be focusing on coordinated enrollment, super app, and coordinated funding. We do encourage all new lead agencies to attend, but you're also welcome to attend if you're new to a lead agency role or would like a refresher about assurances and other responsibilities as a lead agency. If you're interested in attending and not a lead agency, please give me an email at amypoirier@la.gov. Otherwise, if you are a new lead agency, you will be receiving an email from the department with the information to join us on Zoom. All right, if we want to move on. All right, so now we're going to be moving into our collaboration opportunity. We do encourage you to stay on and consider joining us for this collaboration opportunity. This idea was brought to us by lead agency leaders to provide everyone with an opportunity to discuss community network and school systems plans for reopening and to learn from others with a specific focus on what you're doing for your pre-K classroom. And we'd like you to consider, if you are joining us, if there's anything in particular you would like to plan or discuss with this group. So we'll kind of go into the logistics of how this is going to work after we go over upcoming events. So some upcoming deadlines before everyone breaks off is that webinar session this July 17th. And actually this is July 15th. This is an error here. I apologize. That reimbursement claims and final PERs are going to be due. We do have an LA4 funding webinar July 23rd from 11 to 12, and then that Ages and Stages questionnaire training that Amanda just spoke of on July 20th through 24th. So we're going to go ahead and move into that breakout session portion. So if you want to go to the next slide. All right, so for those of you that are staying with us for the breakout session, as Amanda works behind the scenes to start getting those set up, I'm going to go over some instructions and logistics as to how this works. We'll be doing Zoom breakout rooms. Some of you have probably used this before in systems training, or if you're on the Ready Start Network webinar, we just tried it there as well. Because of time limits, and because we didn't know who all would be staying today, we are going to allow Zoom to automatically create your breakout rooms for us today. So you'll be joined with either 3 to 5, depending on how many people stay on, lead agency leaders to discuss reopening and other aspects related to that, related to health and safety, what type of learning you plan to have, virtual mixed methods, and such. So once you get into your room, we're going to allow 25 minutes for discussion within that breakout room. We do encourage that you unmute yourself, and if you would like, you turn on your video. If you do not unmute yourself, you will not be able to hear one another to facilitate the discussion. Also, you may want to open the chat box in case anyone in your group does not have a microphone, so they can also participate via chat. Once in the room, Amanda just dropped a Google document that you can open up and use as a notes section or a notes page to record your ideas that you're discussing. And we're planning to share those notes that you all take in your group later on with the whole group. If for some reason you do not have a Google account, which you'll need to utilize Google Docs, we do encourage you to assign somebody to type into those into that document so we can share it, but you can still participate in the discussion. You will notice there'll be a page for each group in that document. So you'll look at the top of your Zoom screen. It'll tell you the group you're in. So if you're in breakout room 1, you'll look for group 1's page in the Google Doc, and that'll be where you can record your information. After you're in the session for about 25 minutes, we'll come back at about 3:55 to discuss the benefits of the session. So this is a lead agency led discussion. So you will be with groups of other lead agency leaders, as I suggested, and department staff will be around to help with technical assistance. All right, any questions before we get started?
All right. I'm going to go ahead and split up the breakout rooms.
Great. And just one more reminder to unmute and to open your chat box, just in case.
They just blocked us out.
Hi, everyone. Are we coming back together? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So this is our first time experimenting with the breakout sessions. So can you see my screen?
Not right now. You'll have to probably share again.
Okay, let's try it again.
I see a lot of people chatting. They didn't get to say goodbye to their groups, and I didn't either. So everybody, bye. It was a great experience.
Oh no, I thought I put that little timer up, and I did a little, oh.
You did. We just kept talking.
Yeah,
We
Amanda,
didn't
you
follow
did
the
everything
rules.
right. Everybody was just so happy.
Oh, so it was a good session. Yay, that's wonderful.
Hey, Devin, this is Orita Banks. Can you hear me? Okay, I sent you a private message and an email. When you get a chance, just check it out. I have a community grant question for you, okay? Just need a little clarity. Glad to see your face. Put a name to the face, face to the name.
Nice job. Okay, so I'm glad to hear everyone had, and I'm loving to see everyone's face. I would be happy to put mine on, but I couldn't do it. Oh wait, there's my video. Yay. Okay, so I guess we had a good breakout session, and I think that if you were very busy talking, that means that it must have been productive, and you had an opportunity to share some really good ideas. So I want to see if we could possibly just look at it real quick and see some of the notes.
And maybe while you pull that up, Amanda, I can start a little conversation if you're okay about what y'all thought about the experience. I know we're working out probably some technical kinks and getting used to doing it in this way, but is this something you felt was beneficial that you would want to do again?
This is Cassandra Anderson from Natchitoches Parish. My connection was horrible, so it wasn't you guys, it was Natchitoches Parish School Board. So I had to end up getting on my phone, and then I lost my group because I was in an in-depth conversation. But the little that I did hear, and I did hear a lot, so don't get me wrong, but this was extremely helpful because as I was telling my group, I am getting I'm at a point where I need to think outside the box, and having others to kind of bounce ideas off of was extremely helpful. So I really enjoyed it. I wish that we could have had more time, because it was just very helpful to see what others they're doing in their network, and then it is prompting me to have a conversation with my superintendent so that we can keep our numbers up, because he was thinking strictly face-to-face for pre-K, and I know that it's going to be harder to do it virtually, but if I would rather have some type of continuity with them than none. So I just wanted to let you know that this was awesome for me.
Okay. That's great. So if anyone else could type in the word time in the box, it would just let us know that you more time. And if you can put yourself on mute, or maybe I could do it, huh?
I think you could probably mute everybody, and then if you want to talk, you all can unmute again one by one.
Okay, so it'll just let me know if we needed time, if we need more time for the next session, if you would like to try to do another session. Also, I would be curious about the format of the note page, if you feel like if it was productive, or if you'd rather just a blank sheet and you just take notes on how the conversation just kind of organically grew and was authentic to how you guys talked. Any ideas? I know we're kind of at time, so I just want to be respectful. Any feedback on the notes?
I hear some people saying that they like the notes. Some people realize they don't have microphones, so that's one challenge for them right now. But they wanted everybody to know they really enjoyed this session and hearing from another really liked the notes. And
I want to chime in on the notes. I thought that was actually very helpful, especially because after we'll be able to go back in and kind of read through them. So you're going to get a snapshot of what happened in other group rooms that you may not have been a part of. Just one of the things that I was briefly looking over that they shared, that they actually are purchasing portable sinks that'll be outside the classrooms, which, you know, that was not something that we had thought of, but that is a great idea. So I think that is beneficial. I think possibly if we would have had the note page ahead of time, so that we would have had an understanding of where the discussion would go, or because it took me a little while to look at it to figure out, you know, what I'm supposed to be writing and where I'm supposed to be writing. So if I like it, but I think if we have time to digest the notes ahead of time of what format it's going to be, it'll make time more efficient so that we kind of know what to do. But I like it. I think it was great.
Great. Do you think it would be a viable idea, Nicole, to maybe leave the 3 traditional, hybrid, virtual, and maybe with all of your suggestions for those that did future, put the different topics at the top and maybe leave those 3 boxes so we have continuity?
I do. I like that. You see, we didn't even notice, like when I'm looking at it, I didn't notice at the bottom, but the notes, the questions and topics for future discussions, as I'm kind of looking through, I think some people may ended up that's just where they were. They were just like, okay, this is what I really wanted out of this session. Because I tried to say, okay, let's start on health and safety. And someone was like, this is what I really want to know. And it probably would have moved it straight into the other notes, questions, and topics for future discussion. So I like that all there. I think that I think it'll all work. So I do like, because we're going to have just your traditional ideas. We're going to have our hybrid and then, you know, your virtual. I like it. I think it's good.
Okay. And that way, why I was asking is just now that we've all seen it, if we're comfortable with this format, we know what it works, how it's going to work from now on. And you can always feel free, like at the bottom, I know the group I sat in on, we put a few things that we thought of that didn't really fit anywhere either, and that's perfectly fine. Thanks for the feedback.
Anyone else? All right, we're right at 4:04. Thank you so much for participating, and it sounds like, you know, we might be able to do something like this again, and possibly continue and see where we go, and you guys share some more ideas. So, all right, thank you.
One quick last thing. Somebody is asking if they can continue the conversation in the doc if they would like.
Oh, I was wondering about that. If you want to go ahead and finish up your notes or continue a conversation, finish that up, and then we'll clean up your notes however you want to, you know, finish your thoughts, and then we will be sharing these notes in some way or another so that you can have them, and then we'll figure out a way to make sure that we use this format for a session 2 for a breakout.
Another suggestion, because you have the network, but if you would have a section for contact information, that way, if you know, like if you see St. Landry Parish, I really like the idea, who is the contact person for St. Landry on this document, so that if I wanted to do a follow-up question, I can follow up with them versus me having to figure out who in St. Landry Parish is the early childhood person.
That is a great idea. Thank you for Nicole. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you can share it with us and just keep it a living document so that as we get new ideas, put them on here instead of having to reshare and go back and forth. Couldn't this be the living document that we get ideas, come and put it here?
Yeah, let me think on that and figure out how to do that, because right now it's in a weird place. It lives in a weird place right now, but let me see how we can do that.
I think if people save, like if you go where you opened it and then you do file and you want to save it like I saved it, the link, and I put it in something so I will have the link. There's a way that you can copy the link or save it based on what y'all sent to us already. So
Okay.
I did it, but I don't remember how I did it.
Okay.
If you have access, it should leave access unless for some reason we
Yeah.
close it. So it should stay a public document.
Yeah. So finish up your notes for sure, and we'll figure out how we can send this out to everyone. All right. Thanks, guys. And we'll hear from you next week.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.